Shouts of joy, lots of rides, cotton candy, and smiles on their faces. Everyone imagines something like this when they hear about amusement parks. But despite all its external inoffensiveness, many attractions cause genuine fear. And for good reason. After all, there is nothing perfect, and going to the so-called safe extreme, you are still threatened by a lot of things. From a faulty mechanism or poor repair to inattention of staff and just minor mistakes. That can eventually turn into a huge tragedy. And today, we are going to look at 3 terrible cases on the rides in amusement parks. Like it, it's important, and we're starting. Hallie Williams was born in 1988 in Pontypool, in the family of Beverly and Alan Williams. She was a gifted child with a bright musical talent. Her voice was called angelic, and the skill of playing the clarinet and piano amazed even professionals. She studied at the famous Bridget Thomas Music School. Teachers noted her talent and had high hopes for her. In addition to music, Hallie was remembered by others for her kindness and friendliness. Her family said that Hallie was beautiful not only externally, but also in her soul. She willingly gave her warmth and attention to others, taught Sunday school, and sang for lonely elderly people at Christmas. And so, on April 15, 2004, Hallie, along with friends and relatives, decided to relax at the Oakwood Amusement Park. Her mother initially wanted to join this trip, but in the morning she felt unwell. Before leaving the house, Hallie told her mother with concern, "Go to my bed, it's more comfortable there, and don't cook dinner. I'll cook it myself when I get back." She cheerfully ran out the door in anticipation of new adventures. That was the last time her mother saw her alive. Oakwood Park was founded on the 14th of April, 1987. It is considered the largest amusement park in Wales. It is located on a spacious territory and offers more than 35 different attractions. Among the entertainment, there were quite calm activities, such as boating or playing mini golf, and of course, there were breathtaking roller coasters. A group of friends were looking forward to this trip, recalling their past visit to the park. The day turned out to be really eventful and joyful, and everyone was in high spirits. And now it's time to try the last attraction of the day, called Hydra. Hydra was commissioned just 2 years ago. It was a grand attraction with a height of 37 meters. In advertising, it was called the fastest and wettest water slide in all of Europe. And the ads worked. Visitors specially came for this attraction, and on the day of the tragedy, it was the most visited attraction in the park. The management saw it as a way to gain a foothold among competitors because they had to compete with real giants of the industry. The Hydra attraction looked like one big boat with 24 passengers boarding at the same time. For safety, special straps and fixing straps on the knees were provided, which were supposed to prevent accidental falling out. Also, the attraction was known for the fact that its passengers inevitably get wet to the skin. That's why friends along with Hallie decided to leave it for last. At about 1500 hours, they took their places in the boat, preparing for an exciting descent. Hallie Khan's sister later recalled an anxious moment before the trip. The fixing bars first lowered, securing the passengers' legs, and then, due to some mistake, they were released and rose up. After refixing, the staff did not check the reliability of the fastening additionally, and the attraction began to move. The boat slowly ascended to the highest point. Hannah remembered. "We laughed and shouted. When we reached the top, everyone was preparing for the descent, and suddenly, panic began." One of Hallie's friends, Elizabeth, noticed how Hallie fell out of the boat, but did not immediately realize what had happened. "She told me that at first I thought that her jacket just flew off, and then I noticed that her place was empty. Unfortunately, it really wasn't close." Hallie fell out of the boat from a height of 30 meters and crashed into the water. This was noticed by a random man named Richard Sexton. Wasting no time, he jumped into the water to save the girl. He was joined by former firefighter Peter Hawkins, who also rushed to help. They tried resuscitation, and Hawkins' wife, who works as a nurse in the intensive care unit, performed artificial respiration on Hallie. At this time, another witness called the emergency services. During the fall, Hallie accidentally touched a 10-year-old boy, Martin Rothwell, who was also on the ride. The boy suffered a head injury. 3 ambulances and a medical helicopter arrived at the scene. Both children were taken to the hospital, and Martin survived, but Hallie, unfortunately, died in hospital from her injuries. An investigation into this tragedy was immediately launched. Hallie's parents recalled how they received the terrible news that day. The girl's mother told me, "I didn't know what had happened. It may sound strange, but there is a small town called Bethlehem in front of the hospital, and when we drove through it, I felt that when I got to the hospital, I would find out that it was no longer there. Then the doctor came in and asked me to sit down, and I told him, 'If you're going to tell me what I think, please don't tell.' Next, I don't remember much." The girl's father called that day the longest and most terrible in his life, however. Because of the protracted investigation and court hearings, they repeatedly had to return to these terrible events, and each time as if reliving the tragedy. The investigation revealed that Hallie was not properly strapped in. CCTV footage confirmed that the ride operators did not check the fixation of passengers. The mechanic engineer noted that the safety system on the attraction was unsatisfactory, since even with the bar lowered, the passenger could leave the seat. On that day, the Hydra operator for the first time was 24-year-old Garrett Acers, who had completed only 20 minutes of training before starting his work. He explained, "I could see if the slats were lowered, but I couldn't physically check their fixation from the opposite side. My assistant and I conducted only a visual check." Despite all of the above, the police concluded that there was insufficient evidence of gross negligence. This caused real indignation among Hallie's parents. "What's wrong with them? It's not an accident, it's murder," they declared. In the 2007 year, OK Park pleaded guilty to violating the law on health and safety. The court ordered the park to pay a fine of £250,000 and an additional $80,000 for legal costs. However, Hallie's family considered this punishment unfair, saying that it was insignificant compared to the loss of their beloved daughter. Hallie was buried at Marchants Hill Baptist Church. Hundreds of people, relatives, friends, classmates attended the farewell ceremony. On her coffin was a wreath with the inscription, "I will always love you," a song that Hallie often sang to her mother. When the farewell service ended, Hallie's voice sounded through the speakers, which became a touching reminder of her talent and kindness. The Hydra attraction itself was closed for a year, and in the 2005 year it reopened. In 2011, it was simply renamed Drench It, and it continues to work until now. And this story happened on the 21st of June, 2007 year. 13-year-old Caitlin Lassiter and her 2 friends went to the Kentucky Kingdom Park to spend a summer day together. However, what was supposed to be a vivid memory turned into a terrible tragedy that will change Caitlin's life forever. The girl was born and raised in Germantown, a neighborhood of Louisville, Kentucky. This area was known for its German heritage of migrants from Germany, and there was quite a cozy atmosphere. Kate lived with her parents, attended high school. Friends and classmates described her as a bright, sociable, and athletic girl who knew how to find a common language with others. One of the students of the school told me, "There's a group of popular kids at school, and Kate was in it. I knew her pretty well, but my sister was one of her best friends." Another student, Austin, added, "She was a cheerful person, very cool, pleasant to talk to." Caitlin was popular among her peers, and her life was filled with dreams and plans for the future. However, that fateful day at the amusement park changed everything. Caitlin had just recently turned 13, and now her parents finally began to give her a little more freedom. And the girl was happy that she was beginning to be perceived as independent, and was looking forward to a trip to Kentucky King Park with her friends. It was an ordinary sunny Thursday on the 21st of June, 2007 year. Caitlin's parents took her to the park, not even suspecting that this day would turn their lives around. Kentucky Kingdom is a famous amusement park in Louisville, Kentucky. Was opened on the 22nd of May, 1987th year. It offers a wide selection of attractions, water parks, and show programs. This place has become a favorite vacation spot for families and friends, especially during the summer months. The attraction called Superman Tower O-Power was one of the main attractions of the park. This is a free fall attraction. Visitors are lifted to a height and then rapidly lowered down, thereby simulating a free fall. The design was a vertical tower on which passengers were lifted in the seats using a system of cable, chains, and hydraulics. The height of the attraction was more than 50 meters, while it was considered safe. Cables made of extra-strong steel were critically important both for smooth ascent and for regulating the descent speed on the attraction. During the ascent, they provided a smooth upward movement, and during the subsequent descent, they played a role in speed control. The mechanism of this attraction made it possible to lift visitors to a height of 54 meters. At a speed of 19 kilometers per hour, hold them on top for a few seconds, and then rapidly send them down 47 meters at a speed of 87 kilometers per hour. On that ill-fated day, Caitlin and her friends had already taken a ride on several other rides before going to Superman Tower. The first trip went without any problems. They saw that there was no queue and decided to go to this attraction again. They really liked it, and this choice radically changed the fate of Caitlin. They took their seats, and the moment they reached the highest point, the chair began to vibrate noticeably. Realizing that something was wrong, the whole company began to shout. Later, Caitlin described what happened as follows. During this shaking, the cable abruptly broke, hitting me and breaking my lip. The girls screamed, appealing to the operator of the attraction with a request to stop the movement, but their requests remained unanswered. Caitlin remembers, "We looked up and saw the cable breaking and falling. It happened only 6 meters above the ground, but the attraction continued to rise. By this time, the rope had already tangled my whole body, hung over me, enveloped my friends." Moving on instinct, Caitlin tried to throw the rope away from herself and remembered the beginning of the fall like this. "My lip was split, there were cuts all over my body. I was covered in blood and in a panic. The smell of burning and smoke. Panic gripped not only the group, but also others." Caitlin mentioned that something else had fallen from above, probably another cable. "This rope was everywhere, even around our necks. We were throwing it off. Then something hard hit us on the head, and the fall began." In the process of this rapid fall, one of the cables was driven around both of Caitlin's legs. As a result, she suffered a fracture of the left femur and lost both feet. They were actually torn off at the ankle level. According to press reports, the operator heard the sounds of a broken cable and the screams of visitors. But he failed to press the emergency stop in time. He did it only a moment before the descent began and the system blocked, leaving Caitlin locked in her seat. Rescuers quickly arrived at the scene, who removed Caitlin from the chair and rushed her to the hospital. Despite the fact that the injuries were very severe, the girl's condition was assessed as stable. Doctors were even able to save and restore her right foot, but the left one was so seriously damaged that it required amputation below the knee. It should be noted that Caitlin miraculously survived after everything that happened. Immediately after the tragedy, the attraction was closed, and in the 2008 year, it was finally dismantled. In parallel with the rescue operation, an official investigation was launched. According to experts, the key cause of the tragedy was the wear of the cable, which gradually weakened during operation. The exact date of occurrence of the defect, or the single factor that led to the rupture, has not been determined. The specialist involved in the analysis of the incident suggested that the damage to the cable developed in stages and with proper care, which was stated by representatives of the park. The problems could be detected in time. During the interrogation of the park's maintenance manager, John Smith, it turned out that before the fateful day, none of the employees conducted a detailed inspection of all 10 cables on this attraction. In addition, the need to lubricate the cables daily was also ignored. The autopsy of the violation left no doubt that the incident could have been avoided. However, in the end, the park was fined only $1,000. The reaction to the tragedy was the adoption by the Kentucky General Assembly of a special law, prohibiting most high school students from working as operators of extreme attractions. After all, on the day of the disaster, an 18-year-old boy was at the console. The Lassiter family filed a lawsuit against the management of Kentucky Kingdom, accusing them of negligence. The parties came to a pre-trial agreement, the terms of which remained secret. According to J. Beasley, the amount of compensation should have guaranteed Caitlin lifelong care. At the same time, the owners of the park filed claims against the company that created the design of the attraction, but they lost this lawsuit. After the incident, similar rides in different countries were checked for compliance with safety measures, and they turned out to be in order. Because with proper care and control, such problems are simply impossible. The first 5 months after the disaster were a difficult ordeal for Caitlin and her loved ones. Parents admitted that watching their daughter struggle with pain and overcome the serious consequences of injuries was almost unbearable for them. Caitlin underwent a number of operations and a long rehabilitation. Step by step, she learned to walk again using a prosthesis, and the transplanted right foot was gradually restored. Motor functions and sensitivity returned. The girl was able to return to a full life, but remained permanently disabled. And it was just an ordinary day for 13-year-old schoolgirls in an ordinary amusement park. The following story happened on the 20th of June, 2001. Gemma Savage and her boyfriend Gemma Louise Savage was born in 1981. Here's Aponderney, South Yorkshire. Her mother described her as a beautiful, intelligent and kind girl who loved life and had great potential. She grew up in a family of 3 children. Among Gemma's favorite holidays were Halloween and Christmas. She often organized them. Gemma studied at Darwin University, hoping to build a career in the medical field in the future. When June 2001 came, she had just finished her 2nd year and decided to celebrate this event by going with her boyfriend Joseph Schmenny to the Lightwater Bali amusement park. This park was founded back in 1969 year in Ripon, England, by Robert Stavel as a farm attraction. Gradually, new types of entertainment began to appear here, and by the end of the 80s, the park received the status of a full-fledged recreation center, and in 1997, the park was purchased for £5 million, and subsequently it came under the control of a large holding company. The new owners invested considerable funds in development, new impressive attractions were launched, and in May 2000 of the first opened 3-Tap Twister. This is a roller coaster created by a French company. The seats are placed in 1 row, designed for 4 people. The outer seats are designed for taller visitors, and the inner ones are for smaller people. The average duration of riding is about 1.5 minutes, and the trolleys reach speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour. Their design includes rotary mechanisms, thanks to which the cars spin throughout the entire route. As a safety system, belts and a special seat retainer were provided. On his 20th of June, 2000 of the first jam, and Joseph, having managed to ride on other slides, decide to try 3-Top Twister. Nothing portends trouble, they do not suspect that a real horror awaits them ahead. The couple took their seats on the ride, fastened their seat belts, and the ride began. Initially, everything went as usual. However, soon the trolley suddenly stopped in the middle of the track. The error of the section block was triggered. Simply put, the system considered that there was another trolley ahead, which is why it stopped the movement. In fact, there was nothing there, a false signal was triggered. A block of sections on a roller coaster are separate sections of the path, separated by brakes or control signals. They are necessary for safety when several trolleys are moving at the same time. Sensors in each such segment monitor the location of trains and do not allow 2 trolleys to be too close to each other. To return the attraction to normal mode, the operator switches to manual control and disables this system. Unfortunately, this led to the fact that the trolley in which Gemma and Joseph were collided with another one standing in front. And it happened twice, and the second time, the blow was much stronger. Joseph Shimon, who was sitting next to Gem, recalled that the first push was relatively light and the second was so powerful that he lost consciousness. A few minutes later, Joseph came to in a state of shock and fear. He told me, "I thought she was unconscious. Her head was turned to the side, there was a little blood on her t-shirt, and she was making wheezing noises. I tried to talk to her, 'Gemma, you're fine, you're fine.' I was completely confused for a few minutes after the accident. As a result of the incident, both were injured, but Gemma's injuries were especially severe. Head and neck injuries required urgent hospitalization. The girl was transported to the Lida General Hospital by helicopter. Unfortunately, on the 21st of June, a day after the accident, Gemma died from her injuries. The attraction was immediately closed, and the authorities began to investigate the causes and circumstances of this tragedy. During the investigation, it turned out that a number of mistakes played a role in the tragedy that led to the death of Gem. Maintenance technician Eric Pewters switched to manual operation. But a problem in the electrical wiring led to the fact that the computer system was not completely disconnected, and a complete mess came out. The movement of the trolley was neither automatic nor manual. The system crashed, and everything moved in a chaotic manner. As a result, Gemma's trolley suddenly started moving and collided with the trolley in front, after which it began to randomly move along the track, and eventually it crashed into the third trolley at high speed. And this collision turned out to be fatal for Gemma. Eric also did not use the emergency stop button, however, as it was noted at the hearing. He and his colleagues were trained for only 1 hour, without providing information on how to turn off the attraction in emergency situations. The company involved in the design and construction of the attraction was accused of not ensuring the safety of the structure, and not providing all the necessary documentation. After the experts found a wiring malfunction, the owners of the park and the manufacturer were fined a total of £155,000, and the electrician responsible for the service received a personal fine of £2,500. Light Water Valley Park was fined separately for £35,000. The medical examiner classified Gemma's death as an accident, which caused outrage from her parents. The girl's father said that simple actions could have saved Gem. This death was absolutely unjustified. It's hard for me to find words to describe our loss. The mother added, "This is an injustice. There was no justice achieved for Gem today. I can never forgive them. We expected a fine that would reflect the seriousness of what happened. It looks like a mockery to me." And although the attraction was closed after the incident, a year later it resumed its work. But it wasn't the last time the Top 3 Twister, later renamed simply Twister, was mentioned in the news. So, for example, in 2019, a 7-year-old boy fell from a height of 5 meters while skiing. Gemma's mother commented on the situation so similar, no conclusions were drawn. The attraction was unsafe 18 years ago, and as we can see, it still creates problems. The accident that took Gemma's life destroyed our family, and now we are worried about the family of the boy who was injured. Fortunately, the child recovered, but the tragic story of Gem Savage clearly demonstrates the devastating consequences that insufficient security measures and the lack of competent training of staff in amusement parks can lead to. I want to believe that the Savage family has found the strength to live on, and such cases will serve as a lesson to everyone who is responsible for the safety of visitors. Thank you for watching the video to the end, and thank you for supporting the video with likes and subscribe. You can also watch my other video that you see in front of you on the screen. See you soon.